Hello and welcome to the Pens and Pixels podcast. I'm your host, Cal G, and to my left is the coordinator extraordinator,
Mike Kent.
The podcast is the place to come to if you want to hear about the art and news of video games, comics, and movies that week.
That's right, we're the PPP. Or, sorry, was that 3 Ps? The PPPP. Oh, shit.
No, yeah, we're the triple Ps.
We're the triple Ps. The extra P stands for PYOP.
I didn't expect it to be a new catchphrase. It's a little undignified, but you know what? I'll take it. That's fine. That's perfect for us.
That's good.
So this week, we're going to be going over the newsy news that you need to know as per usual. And then after the break, we're going to be doing a small segment on something Marvel said this week about they want to do indie games, which is a strange thing for a big company like Marvel, who's already trying to produce huge AAA games like Spider-Man on the PS4, and they're doing the Guardians of the Galaxy with Avengers games, with Square Enix and stuff. And it's such an odd thing. Me and Mike came up with some indie developers and some franchises from Marvel we would like to see stick together.
Yeah, it's interesting ideas. Like, what would you take from current indie games in the market that you've seen in the styles and the interesting mechanics that really only exist in indie games? Like, there's certain mechanics where you're just like, oh, that's an indie game mechanic I've seen before. And how those apply to particular characters or storylines in Marvel.
Yeah, there's just, things that, I guess a AAA EA guy would never be like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
We're not making a whole game about a blind guy
Yeah.
whose power is to see. Get out of here. We're not taking this. I asked you to get fucking Spider-Man. You come back with Daredevil? I wash my hands of you.
We're not going to do a freaking pixel art version of Silver Sable.
No, exactly.
Yeah. But now, Mike?
So that's what to expect for the second segment. Is there any housekeeping, Mike?
So be sure to go back over our Facebook page and Twitter and check out what happened at OJAM this past weekend. Our art team did an incredible job, and a big shout out to all of you. There were probably about 10 or 12 of you in total. You all worked your asses off and did a great job. Also one of the games that we worked on, we got to do primarily all of the pixel artwork for, which was Sheep Herders. And you can check out these on ojam.ca if you want to try out the games yourself. And our game that we got to do 100% of the art for won Best Game of OJAM 2017, which is super cool, and even actually most fun game. So really proud of you got that. Go check that stuff out. Be sure to download the game if you want to give it a spin. It's actually pretty funny, a fun game. The theme of the whole thing was what's done cannot be undone. So people came up with some really cool stuff.
It's a fucking horrifying theme.
Yeah. Well, one of them, the second place winner, it was a tie. Was a scribble game where it was like Pictionary would be like, draw a sock, you draw a sock, but you can't erase the sock. Now you have to draw, but the next thing is like gun. So then you have to try and turn that sock into a gun and keep drawing as the words kept coming, because you can't undo. There's no undo. You can't undo a line, you can't erase a line, you can't go back.
That's a kind of cool idea.
It was really cool. It was fun to watch. There's a bunch of really great ones. Hollow was a really good one. So there's a bunch of really interesting indie games that came out of it, so be sure to check that out. And also, just as a little hint of some things to come, be sure to pay attention in a few coming weeks for interesting news about us being involved with CGX, the Capital Game Expo, Ottawa's game conference. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, so just keep tuned, because it's going to be pretty cool.
It's going to be cool, guys.
Yeah.
And congratulations to everyone at OJAM.
Yeah.
That's awesome you guys won.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and with that, let's get right into the newsy news. First up on the list, Michelle Rodriguez.
The woman who plays the bitch who dies every time.
Well,
and I mean that as an angry woman.
Yeah, yes. Well,
she's the angry woman who dies in all movies. I don't think I know a single film where she survives till the end.
Honestly, the only ones I can think of are Fast and the Furious and Resident Evil.
She doesn't survive.
No, I mean, just in general, movies she's in.
Oh, no.
I can't think of other movies.
Avatar.
Was she in Avatar?
Yeah, she was the pilot, but she died. She she didn't even have to die. Like, in that scene, she's sitting there and she's shooting, and then she just looks over the camera and she's like, "Sorry, Jake, I'm not going to make it," and the missile hits her, and you're like, you've been dodging them for 20 minutes. Like,
I don't remember that at all. It's been a while since I saw the movie, though.
But she dies in everything.
So, she's been an integral part of the Fast and Furious franchise for a while.
I guess she's alive in that, so.
Yeah, actually she died and then came back.
She did?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Or they thought she was dead. Turned out she just went missing, had a memory loss, and they brought her back in. And
sounds like a soap opera.
It really is.
Oh.
So, anyways, so she's an integral part of the Fast and Furious franchise, especially after her resurrection. But she posted this picture on Instagram and the following comment where she said, "Fast 8 is out digitally today, and I hope they decide to show some love to the women of the franchise on the next one. or I just might have to say goodbye to a loved franchise. It's been a good ride, and I'm grateful for the opportunity the fans and studio have provided me over the years. One love.
That's more than 140 characters.
Instagram doesn't have 140 characters.
That was Instagram, sorry, that was Twitter.
At the end of the day, what message are we sending out there for women? It does weigh heavy on me, especially in the male-dominated environment that I work in. Rodriguez has previously expressed concern about the overly masculine nature of the franchise. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly last month, she said that the tone of the franchise was male-focused because of the violent criminal world it represents. She had hoped that as the series progressed, it would evolve out of the 90s macho vibe, but the film series' growing popularity in developing markets like China, where the grand majority of the population are boys, had made that impossible.
Yeah. It's a definite problem, and it's funny, there's certain things in certain genres that are still just masculine dominated for like not the wrong reasons, and action films are big ones. Like there are some really great female action movies. There's even a new one with Charlize Theron, Blonde.
Yeah, Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde, which looks amazing.
Great.
I want to.
It's by one of the directors from John Wick. So, yeah,
it's gonna be fun, and I mean it's gonna be a movie about a girl who punches stuff really bad, or really good, but like
really good.
They don't like the punch.
I want that to be a subtitle of a movie.
Atomic Blonde, the blonde, they don't like the punch.
No, like Expendables 5, they don't like the punch.
Or bad guys don't like the punch.
Oh, fuck, that'd be good.
Yeah. But, I mean, we've had some great ones. I liked, what's her name? Big Lips. Angelina Jolie. She's got big lips.
Yeah, no, she does. I immediately thought of, Julia Roberts.
Oh, yeah, but she got big mouth.
Yeah, that too.
She can, like, unhinge her jaw like a cobra. Or,
Anaconda.
Anaconda,
starring Julia Roberts.
It's just her swallowing people whole.
They don't even use CG.
She's just doing
slithering in. She's like, "You'll add it in post, right?" They're like, "Yes."
Oh, that's bad. But I liked her in Salt. Like that was great. There's been a couple of really good action films, and
I mean, with Wonder Woman now, like it's finally a big, giant female superhero on screen.
Yeah. And I mean, but that's the thing. It's trickles. Like, you're going to sit there and you got to roll through it. But when you think about the amount of, I mean, hell, the Expendables was just dudes.
Yep.
It was just
that one too was. It's kind of like, hey, look at the last 10 years of action movie stars. Yeah. All guys. That's the thing. Yeah. Like that was literally it. You see them all in a row.
But I really like watching women be in action films. Yeah. I love women in action films. It's almost more fun to watch them beat up because they're so much more agilic and nimble and free, and I like that kind of combat sometimes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, John Wick's a shit ton of fun, and I like watching Keanu Reeves shoot stuff and etc. But
John Wick could easily be a girl though, and it wouldn't change anything.
Oh yeah, and they're doing a whole bunch of female versions of other stuff, and I'm totally down with it. Heck, I mean, Atomic Blonde is basically.
It'd be nice to just have a little more balance in films like this, where like Fast 8, last one I saw was Fast 7. So there's 7 male co-stars she has that are all main characters, and then her, and that's it.
Yeah. I also want to see a change in the visual type, right? Like, I mean, I can believe Charlize Theron could beat someone up because she just kind of looks like that kind of chick, but they're all beautiful bombshells, right? I would like to see more Zoe Bell kind of characters. Zoe Bell, you watched Death Proof. I know you didn't like it.
Yeah.
The girl who rode in the hood.
I don't remember. Haven't seen it in so long.
Okay. She's been in a few other movies, but she's a very famous stunt woman who's kind of turned actress, and she's been in a bunch of other films. She's an incredible stunt woman, one of the best. She literally hung on the front of that car herself with her fingers.
Oh wow.
And she's so fun and so cool. But she's a New Zealand, a Kiwi, stocky woman, like Lucy Lawless kind of woman, right? I want to see that more.
Yeah, well, it's I don't want to bring this to video games immediately, but it's always the same thing. Like when you look at fighting game characters, you see all the guys, and they're all different body types. From Ryu, who's really normal, and then you got Zangief, who's fucking huge. Yeah. Bison, who has the traditional superhero shape. He's got a very V structured torso. Yeah, all different shape. Fat guys, small guys, anywhere in between. And the women are all here's one body type. It's the hot one. It's the hot body type. That's all they get.
They sometimes toss in the giant Russian woman. Even in Overwatch, you get Zarya, who's got this giant muscle-bound Russian bodybuilder woman, but then Tracer with the huge ass and tiny and skinny, Widowmaker with the giant ass and the long spindly legs. You go through even.
I think Blizzard of all people will be better about that.
And I think that they have more female characters than male characters in Overwatch right now. I think.
I think that's right.
They do actually have a female robot horsewoman right now as a character.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. But even Anna is an old woman. She may be older, which is great to see an older woman. So they're more diverse. But again, she's slim.
We get old badass guys all the time, like Liam Neeson, Old Man Logan, whatever. You never get an old badass woman.
Anna is. So that's the best part.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. And she's a great character.
Also the girl from Deadpool, the one who fights Colossus at the end. She's like
I like this. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I wanted to
bigger.
believe that she was going to fight Colossus and be like, all right, like there's going to be some power behind that that can contend with this like giant mound of steel.
Yeah, that was a good thing. Yeah, it just needs to be a little more even. I can see why she's disappointed in the franchise and stuff, and like hopefully with the power she has by being a main character, she can actually swing things in a certain way. You know, it's not going to be like the female Ghostbuster situation where she's like, it's all females now. We got Kate McKinnon here in Fast and Furious, but you know,
well, she's surrounded by other big action actresses. I know she can surround herself with other.
Yeah, like bring on what's her fuck from the Resident Evil movies.
Oh yeah, Mila Jovovich would be a good one.
Yeah,
yeah. Even Zoe Bell, like I just mentioned, would be good. Would be amazing in Fast and the Furious, and Charlize Theron would even be really good.
Yeah.
You know, like there's some.
Charlize Theron was in Fast 8. She was the villain.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Charlize Theron was also great in Mad Max, which is an action movie, and she was basically the main star of that.
Yeah, it would be like accidental main star. Like it's called Mad Max, but it's really about her.
Yeah, it's actually Furiosa.
Yeah,
that just wouldn't sell.
It's Furiosa Fury Road.
Yeah, it might as well have been. Yeah, no, I just think that's cool that she's speaking out like that. Because like we said before, we've hated on Ridley Scott for being like, well, I can't cast anybody. The studios won't fund it. And it's like, you're fucking Ridley Scott. Dude, if anyone has sway, it's you.
Yeah.
Maybe not after Alien Covenant.
No.
But zing! All right, next story.
That's the thing. People are hating that.
Let's get into some DC news. The Batman director, Matt Reeves, teases a noir-driven detective movie. Fresh off the critical acclaim for his stunning War of the Planet of the Apes, director Matt Reeves is bringing on a visionary to take his next project, The Batman. He explains, in all of my films, what I try to do, in an almost Hitchcockian sense, is use the camera and use the storytelling so that you become the character, and you emphasize with that point of view. There's a chance to do an almost noir-driven detective version of Batman that is point of view driven in a very, very powerful way that will hopefully connect you with what's going on inside of his head and inside of his heart.
Oh god, if it was like camcorder footage, kind of like Cloverfield or like
oh god,
yeah, could you imagine?
That'd be terrible.
Yeah. Or he's just like, Robin, you're gonna be wearing a GoPro.
That'd be terrible. I think a noir Batman movie would be fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that's the direction that we need to almost teeter away from with Batman now, because...
Why?
Well, the whole Frank Miller Batman thing is so idolized, right? Like, everyone thinks it needs to be the Frank Miller's Batman. And I don't mean his Batman, I mean, like, the Dark Knight stuff, and, like...
The Dark Knight Returns stuff.
Yeah, like, all of that, right? Even the Killing Joke stuff, which that wasn't Miller. Was that Miller? No, that wasn't Miller.
No, that was Alan Moore, I think.
Alan Moore. But in that same subgenre of, like, they all follow the same tone, right? And the thing is it was still probably #1 best Batman story ever done, but like enough with the gritty realism to that extent, and the going noir and going darker.
I don't think noir means realistic necessarily.
Well, you're right. Like it could go like
we could have Killer Croc in a noir movie. You know, like I don't think that precludes anything else. I think that's just more of a tone and filming style. You know, like and. There'd be a lot of people smoking in chairs at some point, and you know, a femme fatale. It's you know.
I mean, if you like really position it from like a detective,
and I would love, and that's the thing. I would love it like a slightly more detective-oriented Batman. Mm-hmm. We haven't really had one.
No.
Fucking in the Dark Knight, Christian Bale takes a bullet casing that somehow has a fingerprint on it from the inside of the casing or something,
but then
and
he shoots
analyzes
it again.
And like. It doesn't make any sense, and that's like the most detective work he does in that entire movie.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. He wasn't really detecting as much as like I used the technology. I would love to see a more like him sleuthing around and being
even
smart.
My favorite parts from like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight and all that stuff. Like whenever you were hunting down Professor Pig, is that it? Or what the fuck his name is? The pig
in. Pig is in Arkham Knight.
Yeah. It was.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
But like hunting his clues down and finding the bodies, and even though like you literally did the same thing 7 times, where you scanned the body and found the same.
Yeah.
Like oh, you got stabbed. They're all been stabbed, dude. Like, just stop. But still. The going up and scanning the portion of like scanning a portion and feeling like they like ripped off the fingertips, this and that kind of stuff, like that kind of exploration, even using a bit of his technology, like that would be very cool. Now it couldn't run a whole movie; he has to punch something eventually.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not saying like no action or anything like that. Just like he's trying to solve a mystery during this thing. It's not just not things are happening to him. Mm-hmm. He's trying to make something happen. He's trying to get underground into Penguin's network. Or he's schmoozing with people as Bruce Wayne, and then he uses the information he got as that to go. beat someone down as Batman or interrogate them or something, you know, like.
And even really cool stealth stuff around that, like, you know, if he is trying to do some sort of infiltration, whatever, like he dresses up like as he seems to do a lot and get away with, even though he's Bruce Wayne. Like he just puts on a fucking beanie and a brown coat and goes in and he's like, I'm a thug, and they're all like, oh, okay.
To be fair, that works, I think, with Batman because, like, a lot of people, they periodically in Batman stuff, they have, like, the employees say, like, I've never even seen Bruce Wayne. Like, I don't know, is he coming to this board meeting? What the hell? Like, people might not know what he looks like necessarily.
His face is, like, on the news every day.
Well, fucking Clark Kent didn't know he was.
I guess in the DC universe, everyone's, like, partially blind.
Yeah, they're like, oh, a Wonder Woman?
Yeah, she just changed dresses.
Oh.
Yeah, obviously Diana is not the same, even though her name's the same.
Yep.
But, like doing that and then going through... It's so dumb. Like, going through and, like, sneaking in and then suddenly, like, you know, like, taking off, like, his coat and stuff, and then there's, like, a utility outfit with no cape or whatever underneath, and he has to go sneak in and... You know, like doing some more of like the espionage as well, mixing with the detective.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just in the film noir style, that could be really cool.
Yeah.
Just a lot of urban, like, you know, environments and stuff.
I mean, story-wise, you'd have to pick a villain that would have a really interesting twist at the end. You know, like doing the Red Hood would be one in a kind of film noir detective style.
I immediately just go to Riddler. Do a good Riddler story.
Doing a good Riddler story would be amazing.
It would be amazing. And obviously you can have someone else he's working with in there, fucking Professor Pig or Penguin or someone.
And it's even doing like cool switches with Riddler, because like Riddler eventually becomes a good guy and like a detective, right, himself. But like maybe that's his whole thing, is like he put himself back into the world because he's a detective, and then that's the swoop into switch, is that it wasn't Riddler, it was actually all the whole time it was the Scarecrow.
It was Hush. Yeah,
or Hush. Or, yeah.
Yeah, like I think it's a really cool direction to go. It means that we're losing the version that was leaked before of Batman, like Arkham Asylum kind of thing, where he was going to go to Arkham Asylum and just be in Arkham Asylum. Who knows? But like the previous guy was like, yeah, he's just going to see everybody.
I literally think someone just came along. Like, I've shown Jed the opening of Last of Us like once or twice, right? And I'm always like, wow, this game looks like it could be really good. And I'm like, yeah. I think someone just turned on the first thing of Arkham Asylum, the first game where like he gets brought into the asylum, which is like a great sequence. And they're wheeling
Joker in, and
which is a great sequence. And then someone's like, "This is what your movie should be like," and then they just turn off the game there, and they're like, "Let's make a movie about that scene."
Yeah, yes.
Like that's what it was.
Anyways, yeah. So I think that sounds cool. Matt Reeves sounds like he at least has a vision, which just sounds like more than what a lot of people had in the DCU before this. So.
That's the thing.
I'm excited to see where he goes with this. And again, yeah, like War of the Planet of the Apes, his newest movie, is getting tons of critical acclaim, so very cool. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Next up is Joss Whedon, also in the DCU.
Continuing to try and revamp and bring back the DCU because the pressure's on for them to continue making good movies.
So if you didn't know, he's taking over for Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's family suffered a tragedy, and he's exiting the DCU for now, maybe permanently. Not really sure. I'm sure the door is open for him to return if he wants.
But I think he's taking a very long break.
I think he's probably taking a break from this. But anyways, Joss Whedon is kind of like taking the reins from him for now. It seems like Joss Whedon is going to be the new frontrunner for the DCU.
Yeah.
Took over the Justice League, and Justice League seemed like it was almost done. There was a lot of rumors of like it had been reshot so many times already.
Yeah, it's been a roundish number of 6 rounds of reshoots already.
Yeah, and so like everyone was just like, okay, Joss Whedon's coming in, and he's probably just gonna like see it to completion. Like he's basically just gonna like be at the editor's desk smoking with them. And like, all right, yeah, just fucking
stick him in a shawarma shop and have him talk about shawarma again.
Well, we didn't film that. We can't just edit it in. But now it sounds like Joss Whedon might be doing a little bit more than just like overseeing the ending.
Yeah, like way more. So they've had actual like video footage of the new sets that Joss Whedon's building, and it's not like I built a bar. He built like this giant grand stadium thing,
possibly the Hall of Justice,
possibly looking like the Hall of Justice, like huge. Like you don't do that for like, oh, I'm just gonna splice in some character scenes. This is like I'm setting up a giant action scene where they're going to be flying on wires and shit.
Yeah, it was surprising to me. You told me that story, and I hadn't heard the story, and I was like, it can't be that big. And then they showed me this thing, and I was like, how is this not making more news? I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're making big shoots, and they've even recast the musician. So Snyder's favorite musician, I forget his name, but he likes his heavy metal rock, which was actually the bad tone for Batman vs Superman, and the reason why it kind of sucked was like constantly playing. heavy music, bar, when like Superman comes down to save the day, and you're like,
Now we got Danny Elfman, I believe.
Yeah, and now it's been switched up to Danny Elfman, who's done great superhero soundtracks before, and I mean, it's fucking Danny Elfman.
He did the intro to The Simpsons, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
He composed Night Before Christmas.
Star Wars. No, he's not Star Wars. That's someone else.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but he's done... Elfman's done everything.
Danny Elfman gets $14 every time The Simpsons intro is played in syndication.
He's a rich man.
Right? I thought about that. I learned that information relatively young, and I was like, holy fuck. Like, as I watched
in the 90s, it must have been so much
Simpsons
more.
episodes in a row, I was just like, what the hell?
Yeah. Because, like, in the 90s, the Simpsons, you could probably watch a whole day of Simpsons just flicking channels.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman's a rich man. He doesn't even need to keep composing, but
No.
he does it because he loves it.
He does a good
and
job.
he loves the DCEU.
Yeah. But it's interesting. The switches over has changed a lot about this movie. We're thinking so far. So
I'm wondering if, like, Joss Whedon and possibly Jeff Johns are going to be, like, in cahoots now, you know, as like the visionaries of this thing.
I think he's trying to change the tone of the film pretty hardcore. I think, like, what my imagination of what happened is he got in... Zack Snyder's not exactly been the most mentally stable human being because of his troubles at home, which would affect your work no matter what, which is fair. I'm not, like, bad-mouthing him for it. I'm just saying, like, that sucks. So it probably impacted his work, and they got the movie, and he's like, all right, the tone is a little jumbled and off, and we totally understand why. So I want to put my side into it, so let's go in and fix a few things. He put a few, like, cutesy, fun scenes that Joss Whedon does of banter and shit that he's so good at. And then they're all like, oh, we like that, let's put more in, right? And then he's like, okay, great, here, I'm going to build this.
It has to release in 6 months, Joss. What are you doing? He's just, like, creating the Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
I'm making a new movie. He's hammering stuff.
I'm Joss Whedon. I can do it in 2 minutes.
Jeff Johns is like, well, you know, we need this set. We need this lot for. We're trying to film Cyborg. We're not doing Cyborg anymore. He's just like hammering things. And they're like, but why? He's not going to sell. It doesn't matter. No one likes Cyborg. He's just fucking still hammering. Has nails in his mouth. He's just fucking. Can you pass me this?
Who do they like? Batgirl.
Well, her books they're selling okay, but we don't think it's Batgirl. We're doing Batgirl.
Yeah.
Jeff Johns just like goes back into his room. Puts the filing cabinet back in front of the thing.
And he crawls in the back of the corner and sucking his thumb.
I'll never get control. I'll never get real control.
I will be Feige. I will. Oh, poor Johnson.
That's really what it seems like to me. It seems like Joss Whedon got brought on to, like, let's do Batgirl. And then he got shoved into this, and now he's like, you know what, I have a vision for this whole universe.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I wonder why... Just in general, why he flipped over to DC, you know?
Well, he left Avengers. Age of Ultron lost a lot of its points and its credit, and even didn't feel 100% like a Joss Whedon film because, as Joss very publicly and stupidly complained, and like angrily complained, was that he got too much studio interference in that movie.
Yeah.
And he's right. Like, he did get a shit ton in that movie, which is actually why they ended up backing off of a few other directors.
Well, there's like that whole fucking Thor scene.
Yeah,
that's the only one that really stands out to me as like this didn't need to be there.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple other moments, and there's also some banter sections and a few action scenes where you're just kind of just like, all right, I think Joss would have probably set this up differently, and I feel like you were like, we need to see more Vision punching or something. So he got really pissed about that, and a little bit too publicly. And then when he did that, the reaction from the studio about how angry they were at his bitching were like, that made the divide wider. He was just like, fuck it, I'm out.
I wonder if he saw DC like a battered puppy. He's like, I can reform this thing. You know what I mean?
Loves an underdog.
Like, he just like, because like, you know, going from one huge corporate entity to another one, you wouldn't think you'd have more creative control. You'd be like, I'd probably have about the same. They'd still interfere. But DC was in such a position that they were probably just like, please help us.
Yeah, help. Put this together.
Jeff Johns has been in his office for 67 days now. We don't even know if he's alive. We get someone else to come by and sing him a lullaby outside the door to get him to sleep. We don't know if it's working.
It's like he comes in with like 2 scripts that are shaped like puzzle pieces, and then he puts them together. And he's like, the first time 2 things fit together, and they're all like, you can put them together.
Yeah, so who fucking knows what's happening? Looking forward to see what Joss Whedon can do with the DCEU.
No, that's the pitch. He comes in, and he has like a bunch of bricks, and he's like, so what do you think you can do? And he just puts the bricks together, inappropriate, so he builds a little wall. Nice constructed, and he just walks away, and you're like, yeah, that's the man.
Yeah, that's him.
That's him.
He's gonna do it. All right, so next up, we're getting into some Marvel news.
Marvels.
Venom with Tom Hardy takes place in the Spider-Man Homecoming universe.
I think. Maybe.
Maybe. So this came out of an interview that Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal were having with just some press, some media. When asked if the Venom movie was going to be in the MCU, she said, yeah, our goal, yeah, it's going to be integrated in there. And immediately everyone started making the Hello Darkness, My Old Friend memes that happened with Ben Affleck to Kevin Feige, as Amy Pascal ranted like a madman about how everything is connected, and yes, Venom's part of the same universe as Spider-Man, who's in the MCU, so it's all part of one thing. And Kevin Feige, just has this weird look on his face, kind of looks over and just doesn't say anything, and just looks back and just like, like doesn't seem on board with it. I think she probably got a tongue lashing from him afterwards. Yeah. Who fucking knows?
But the thing is, at the same time, like, I came in and he shows me the story, and I'm like, I thought I just read a story today where they said they confirmed that Spider-Man is not in Venom.
It's been so back and forth that it doesn't make any sense. But none of it makes any sense. So, like, there was another one about, like, Spider-Man. Their intent is to have Spider-Man in the Venom movie. Like, Homecoming Spider-Man is in the Venom movie, but the Venom movie isn't necessarily in the MCU. So, like, it's almost like a what-if scenario of, like, here you go.
What if an alien goo came down?
Yeah, this has no connection with Iron Man or anything or any of that, but like it is the same Homecoming Spider-Man as the thing.
They need to smooth this deal out.
But like, I mean, honestly, like it doesn't really matter unless something really comes up where in the main MCU where you would have been like, man, Venom would have been really useful for this part, you know, like otherwise.
When is he ever really, truly, honestly more useful than someone else?
Yeah. Very rarely.
You know what I think what's happened though is that the whole Marvel Fox deal with the Spider-Man like kind of merger thing they did, right, is not ironed out correctly, which I think is more than apparent.
Well, I don't even think it's not ironed out correctly. I think that Sony started doing all these fucking side spin-off movies afterwards, and they're like, well, this is all okay too, right? And Marvel's like, nope, that's not on the paperwork though. Yeah. And they're like, oh, it's fine. So he's like giving thumbs up in the background.
But I also think that they're trying to make an attempt at Sony, right? It's Spider-Man, not Fox. But I think they're also trying to make an attempt at a Spider-Verse, right? With all this content they're making, so that maybe they can make their own MCU. So they're going to have the Spider-U or whatever, you know, and just like make a bunch of Spider-Man content, because there's more content out of Spider-Man than there is almost out of any other, except for X-Men maybe. Any other franchise. So they're going to try, like, they're like, we're still working with you, keep making Spider-Man, you know, like, just churning out Spider-Man content and being like, oh, guess what, they're all connected, it was always supposed to be a Spider-Verse, screw you, Marvel. And
it's so, are they trying to back themselves up in case Marvel pulls out?
Or that they actually make a giant hit that makes an entire Spider-Verse work, and then there's something like, oh, we've got our own universe. It
doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's some quotes about the whole Spider-Man Homecoming thing, some Venom details, some Silver Sable and Black Cat details, a little bit of everything. Prep your ear holes.
Oh, I love your eye holes.
How the armies of lawyers for the two corporate behemoths, Disney-owned Marvel and Sony, ever reached an agreement in February 2015 might seem complicated, but Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige said it was actually quite simple. It really came down to me telling Amy in her office that I think the best thing for this character is Sony has the rights, that's not changing. Have Sony pay for the movie, distribute the movie, market the movie. Just let us make the movie and incorporate him into our universe. Apparently that was that easy.
Huh.
As for expansion plans, Tom Hardy is starring in Venom, dated for October 5th, 2018, which will also feature the villain Carnage. That was another little bit of news that came out of this. Carnage. What do you think about that, Mike? Just as a...
Well, I mean, like, I think I told you over text. I was excited. I'm like, oh my god, Carnage! I want to see him on screen, hooray! And it's like
same.
We were both so excited to see Venom on screen finally, and then we got Carnage, and we're like, hey! But then the click came in where I'm like, Ant-Man fights another Ant-Man, you know, like Iron Man fights another Iron Man, and then now suddenly Venom's just fighting another Venom, and I'm like, fuck.
Yep, it's just the opposite of him.
But
not even. It's the same.
You made the best point ever though. Like, what else is Venom going to fight?
That's the thing. Like, there's no good Venom villain where you're like, what's his arch nemesis? It's like Spider-Man. Oh, what's the other one? Carnage.
Yeah, they're both spider people.
Yeah. Is there anything else? Stegron, the dinosaur lord?
Yeah.
To be fair, in the newer run of Agent Venom comics, he had a villain in Jack O'Lantern, who was a flying pumpkin guy on a glider. Just like he was basically Green Goblin with a pumpkin head.
And even then, too, like the main biggest villain for any Venom story is always about him going off and killing other Venom spawns, like symbiote spawns.
Yep.
You know, Planet Venom or whatever, Planet Symbiote.
Planet of the Symbiotes.
Planet of the Symbiotes, and
the newer anti-Venom run.
Yeah,
the newer Toxin run.
And then the whole spawning run where he had like 7 multicolored babies.
Yep. Hybrid.
Yeah, like, and all that fucking shit, like, you name it. There's just too many symbiotes. It's all about the symbiote thing and all about the aliens, so, like...
Yeah, like, Venom's fought, like, big Marvel characters before. He's fought Wolverine. He's fought basically everyone. Yeah. But, like, they can't be the villain. You're not going to be like, oh, Namor's the villain in this one. You're like, what? No. Yeah. So, yeah, Carnage is, like, what else were they going to do? If they want any name recognition, they needed to do Carnage.
Yeah.
Still cool. I'm really eager to see who they're going to cast for that alongside Tom Hardy. Mm-hmm. A source says Tom Holland is only contractually obligated to Spider-Man 2 and 3, but the intention is to bring him into the spin-offs and possibly other Marvel films. He's currently shooting Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. Marvel is so good at working around your schedule, Holland told them. They're very respectful of your life, really. They really understand you have to work on other movies, and yeah, they try and fix it up so you can work. Meanwhile, Michael Keaton only has one deal for Vulture for one movie. Another spin-off, Silver Sable and Black Cat, doesn't have a release date, but is eyeing a fall shoot and features characters Silver Sable and Black Cat. Other projects will focus on Kraven the Hunter and Mysterio.
Yeah.
Sony's planning on a Kraven and Mysterio spinoff.
So funny, we were sitting back for probably 7 podcasts going, make some Kraven content, because Kraven's an awesome villain. But I didn't want him to have his own movie.
Okay, so...
And this is my Spider-Verse theory coming true, right?
Yeah. Okay, so Silver Sable and Black Cat getting a movie kind of makes sense. So, like, Black Cat is her own thing, and she has her own storylines, her own things she does on the side. She runs a criminal empire a lot of times. She's taking up her kingpin at times. Yeah. Silver Sable's a fucking assassin or a bounty hunter or whatever the fuck she is, right?
I thought she was, I think she originally was one of Wolverine's Weapon X Project team characters, wasn't she?
I think it's someone else. Okay, whatever. It's going to be both of them. They clearly have something to play with, some history.
But there's a huge history behind
something to do. They can carry their own movies and have their arcs and stuff. What has Mysterio ever done except for fight Spider-Man?
And rob banks.
That's what he does.
He doesn't have a motivation. He doesn't have some grand motivation as a hero. He's like, hey, I'm a special effects artist. I can make cool special effects with my special effects cubes. I will go rob a bank. And that's been his motivation for 40 years. The
only way in my head I'm seeing this work is if it's a Spider-Man movie where he fights Mysterio, but it's just more from Mysterio's perspective.
What, just being depressed that he can't win? Like, he slowly keeps on losing? That's the whole thing? He's just in his lab and going like, fuck, again, I can't win.
Like, I think there's a lot of potential for Mysterio to be a cool villain in a movie.
Amazing villain.
And, like, with all the shit he can do with his illusions and just the visual spectacle he could have on screen. Yeah. That being said, I don't know what else you do with him with a full movie. Is it just him doing his own thing, being a villain? Just winning until Spider-Man takes him down in a movie?
Yeah.
Same thing with Kraven. Kraven, his motivation is he hunts beasts, he wrestles lions, he wins. He's like, I'm the toughest man, and I'm going to go...
And I take a drug that makes me more animal, right?
Well, not yet, because then he goes after Spider-Man and he realizes he's a bitch compared to him, and he's like, okay, I got to take this lion drug. I got to snort this lion cane.
Lion cane.
And then he just...
When you put it out on the tray, it actually has stripes.
Yeah. Tiger's blood. He sniffs it, he becomes Charlie Sheen, and he just fucking goes after him. You know what? Okay, a Kraven, although I'm not, like, specifically interested in seeing it, is a Kraven movie, he could at least do something. He could, like, in the Kraven movie, he could be like, you know what? You know what? Fuck Venom. And he's gonna go after Venom or something. You know, he goes after someone else and fights him. He could go after the bigger prey because that's what he wants to do. He wants to be the...
You could do kind of like
he's the Beastmaster.
You could do almost like a Predator kind of movie where like he's just constantly hunting shit, right? And...
It just turns into a comedy where his head's popping up. People are just trying to like live their lives.
Yeah. He's like
Squirrel Girl.
He becomes more and more like an animal, and just like sometimes just curls up in people's laps, and then like pisses just on the middle of the road.
He tries to spray like a cat does. There's something with Kraven. Not necessarily. I still don't think they could do it, but there's something there where I could see you like.
There's potential to draw it in the cool direction.
You could weave a yarn out of it, where it's like, Mysterio's like, what? It's gonna be the origin of his fucking ball head. Like,
or the fact that he made like a holographic cube and didn't sell it.
And for some reason,
he didn't like patent this and sell it and become like the next fucking Apple. Instead, he's like robbing banks. That's where it's at.
Yes. Oh fuck yeah, exactly. Like, why didn't he become the next like Steve Jobs or something? Yeah. He fucking Jesus, yeah.
That's just I don't know.
No idea. It seems like a bad idea. That
seems a bad idea.
That sounds like because before this whole MCU Spider-Man thing happened, they were gonna do the Sinister Six movie with the Amazing Spider-Man universe, and they were gonna do all this shit, and it sounded horrible too. doing these.
Well, the story for this too. That's the thing is they say that the whole idea is to make singular movies for villains, each one to work their way slowly up to the Sinister Six style shared villain continuity. To do
okay,
this,
so they're just not letting go of that idea.
Yeah.
They never let it go.
They just want to do it like they want to do an Avengers version where they're like, we're going to stretch this the fuck out with 6 movies and then do Sinister Six. But like, one, writing films from a villain's point of view is hard enough, right?
Yep.
2, making them likable when you're not supposed to be likable is hard enough. And then 3, some of the villains just don't have enough character. They're just really cool. Like, they have a cool power set or a really cool personality.
I like watching Spider-Man fight Rhino.
Yeah.
Rhino is not interesting.
No.
I wouldn't want to see a whole comic about, like, the intricacies of Rhino.
Yeah, and where his Rhino powers came from. Like, he went to Africa
I'm
and...
stuck in suit. He's bummer, but I punch little man who flings. Oh.
My life is so tough.
I become friends with Trump. I hear he like Russia. I'm Rhino. Yeah, like, you know, Rhino, even, they've fleshed out Scorpion quite a bit, actually. Scorpion's someone who could actually have some potential. But yeah, just in general, you're right. There's a lot of just pretty one-note villains where you're like, there's nothing sympathetic about you, there's nothing empathetic about you, and I don't think you're necessarily cool enough, shocker, to actually have a story, so.
Yeah.
Just weird. I hope Sony doesn't fuck this whole thing up. I really want Venom to be good.
I think Venom would be fine on its own. I just think that their attempt at a Spider-Verse is really a dumb idea. They could build us all off of characters around Spider-Man much easier. Hell, they could even do multiple Spider-Men and start hitting Miles Morales and other stuff like that. And that's a better idea. Like, I mean, I'm against that idea as well, but not as much as I would be against the idea of a Mysterio movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, well said. Yeah, still not enthusiastic, but more enthusiastic.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is the last Marvel story. This is from Fox. It's a rumor. Kid-friendly Fantastic Four reboot in the works. Bleeding Cool has received reliably sourced information about a new Fantastic Four movie being developed at Fox Studios. And while the most recent movie reinvented the Fantastic Four as youngsters along the lines of the Ultimate Fantastic Four comic book, the movie swings to the other end of the spectrum. Instead, it will concentrate on Franklin and Valeria, the children of Reed Richards and Susan Storm, while still having the Thing and Human Torch along for the ride. The current draft of the proposed new Fantastic Four movie is being written by Seth Grahame-Smith. He is best known as the author of the novel Pride and Prejudice with Zombies, as well as Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, both of which have been adapted as movies.
Which is not encouraging.
No, so I know some people like the book Pride and Prejudice with Zombies. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, people like that movie.
Did they?
Some people do. I don't personally.
I thought it was a piece of garbage.
I don't like it. I have no interest in any of that stuff that he's doing. Also, he did some script polishing on the Josh Trank movie. There's nothing polished about that script. So this is a weird move. I feel like Fox, you're not sitting on some fucking secret gold mine with Fantastic Four.
No, and getting rid of Reed Richards and Susan Storm doesn't make this thing better, because now the Fantastic Four is just Franklin and Valeria, and then Thing and the Torch. So like, these guys are cooler because Stretchy Man and Invisible Woman aren't cool enough. Or something, right?
Well, it's a kid-friendly reboot, though. Like, I don't know if it's, like, I don't know, if a kid's gonna be the main character, so it's
what's your story when one can alter all of reality?
Yep.
Like, and it doesn't, there's no limit to that reach. He could just decide the universe was a pickle.
I'm Pickle Rick!
Pickle Rick!
Fox, you're not sitting on a gold mine with Fantastic Four. They are, like, the least loved Marvel characters in general, I would say. Of the big ones. Like...
The Fantastic Four?
Yeah, I think so. And, like...
The only time they ever got cool was in Ultimates. Like, suddenly when they made Reed Richards into a giant brain-growing villain...
Yeah, Reed Richards is more interesting as a villain.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, this is so much cooler, right? And, like, Invisible Woman, all she's ever been in the comic books, like, even during the heyday of Marvel, when they were all still, like, well within the top of their games, like, all she ever did was, like, show up and be like, you can't hurt my family! I'm super powerful! And then smack something with an invisible wall and walk away.
Yeah.
Like, that's all she ever did.
It's just, stop trying, Fox. Just let the rights expire.
Yeah.
And let Marvel have them back, because they'll probably actually do something good with it.
And they probably won't even give them a full movie. Marvel would probably be smart enough and just be like, all right, we're going to toss them in on the next Infinity War.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I believe they would show up in, like, Iron Man 4 or something.
Yeah.
He'd be like, oh yes, my friend Reed Richards. He recently got fucked up and is now a stretch man. He's joining the Avengers. Like, whatever. Yeah, like,
It just explains it in a weird way. It's like, you made a quantum singularity and slowly got stretched out. Just sitting there in a big pile. I'm in horrible pain.
You'll be fine. Yeah, just...
But he's really smart.
It's weird they keep trying, honestly. But I guess they just... They must think it's worth something. That's the thing.
But why do they keep thinking it's going to succeed? Because none of them have.
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. They must think They must think that this has the potential to do as well as the X-Men movies.
Or there's like one director left who was a comic book fan, or a director, like a business owner at Fox, right? Fox, yeah. Who was a childhood Fantastic Four fan, and is sitting there with all the others when they're drinking their scotch, and he's like, "But no, Fantastic Four was the coolest when we were a kid. People love Fantastic Four." No, Billy, that was just you.
That was only you.
But Fantastic Four, fuck it, he won't shut up.
Yeah, it is kind of mind-boggling. At this point, I would just give up and take my lumps and let Marvel have the rights back, let them expire, and just take 100%. It back. All right. Enough movie news, enough superheroes. Let's get into some games.
Gaming games.
Some games. Mass Effect Andromeda will not get single-player DLC. This comes from Kotaku, from our boy, Jason Schreier. We've talked about him many times in this podcast, all the fucking rumors he talks about. Excellent journalist, has a book out, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. Check it out.
Yep.
Well, he didn't pay us for that, I just said it. Yesterday, a widely shared Facebook post claimed that BioWare had canceled Mass Effect Andromeda's downloadable content. The good news, that Facebook post was a hoax. The bad news, they guessed correctly. Mass Effect Andromeda will indeed not be receiving any single-player DLC. 3 people familiar with BioWare's plans have told me. This will be a drastic departure for the long-running sci-fi series. All 3 Mass Effect games received single-player content after launch, with expansions like Mass Effect 2's Lair of the Shadow Broker and Mass Effect 3's Citadel, earning praise for their stories and character development. Fans had expected a similar approach for Mass Effect Andromeda, but mediocre reviews and animation memes have steered the series in an unfortunate new direction. In April, we reported BioWare scaled down its Montreal studio, whose staff had developed Mass Effect Andromeda with help from BioWare's other studios in Edmonton and Austin. The chilly reception to Andromeda led the company to transfer BioWare Montreal's employees to other projects, including Star Wars Battlefront 2, Anthem, and the next Dragon Age. Although a small team remains in place to work on Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer and patch support, which isn't done yet, most of BioWare Montreal has moved on. BioWare has also shelved plans for a sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda, sources said.
Yeah. So, I mean, this makes sense as being true because the BioWare Montreal team has been hacked into pieces and
like you said, a very small crew working on patches and shit.
And everyone else is currently working on other projects, right? Because like BioWare Montreal was supposed to be assigned to be being the Mass Effect team from this point on.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the goal for BioWare in general. Was like Edmonton was going to be Anthem, and
like had it had a better reception, I bet the team would still be working on single player DLC right now.
And probably planning out the next sequel. But because it got such a crappy run, like everyone else is putting so much effort into Anthem, clearly. Apparently working on the next Dragon Age, which hopefully, if it's any good, I'm sure it will be an excellent game.
I want to take all this basically as fact. I know it's technically a rumor, but like Jason Schreier also had that huge story about the whole like the inside of Mass Effect Andromeda article. I feel like this is basically
but this is also 100% not just like, oh, that sounds like logic sense. It sounds like 100% true. Like it just matches up correctly. And it's just really sad because it could spell a very long time and end until we ever see any Mass Effect content ever again.
I'm shocked at how quickly BioWare seemed to have like not rushed the game even, but just how quickly like they were like, oh fuck it got bad reception, like, and there's like immediately like 2 weeks later they were like, yep, we're putting on the whole franchise on hiatus, and it's like. By all means, like, there were a lot of, like, these animation, like, the fucking GIFs going around, people making fun of it and stuff. But by and large, I've mostly heard either people like you, who really like the game, or people who are like, it's not the greatest, but, like, it is still a really enjoyable game.
Well,
like,
that's my standpoint as well. It was just that, like, it wasn't the best Mass Effect I ever played, but it was still it was a good game.
It was a good Mass Effect. Like, it wasn't great, but it was good. Like, that's the thing.
I wasn't chilled to the bone. I wasn't drawn in by the characters as much, but nevertheless,
I've seen very little, like... I've seen very little hate as, like, people hated the Mass Effect 3 ending, specifically. I haven't seen anything like that towards this game as a whole, Like, no one was rebelling.
And once the animation...
People were pissed that, like, it got released in that state, but...
Yeah, but I mean, like, once the animation and texture problems were fixed up, and I'm sure it's improved more since then, like, it changed the game for me so drastically, because I played it, like, maybe 40% of the way through before the changes happened, and that was only just the first round of changes, and it made such a drastic difference that the end of the game was actually far more engaging, because it was no longer, like, looking at sweaty, oily-faced fish people. But like the part that gets to me really bad is that how fast they were is what you're saying. Like they literally just dropped one of the greatest franchises ever. Like it was sitting there, and then they're like, all right, and then just stabbed it in the gut.
And the fact that they said it too is
and just like walked away and let it bled on the floor.
Like, and the thing was, like, they came out and said, like, Mass Effect is probably going on, like it's going on to a hiatus. And, like, again, like, it's so weird for a company to say that. Usually they say nothing and just slowly let a franchise die.
Yeah.
You know, like, Devil May Cry, Capcom never came out and was like, you ain't gonna see that bitch for a while. like, no one said that, but, like, it just slowly died, and we haven't seen it in a long time.
It feels like it might be two things. One thing it could be is that they put that announcement out to see what the fan reaction would be to the idea of canceling the series,
could be.
Which has caused more of a storm and more fervor. Like everyone's like, we hate Mass Effect Andromeda, but the fact that you're canceling it put everyone else into this rage, right? And I've seen
people love Mass Effect, and like I don't think they want to see it go. The game wasn't bad enough to warrant.
No, but I think they're gauging it.
Yeah, fucking the series.
Yeah, they're like they said that, and they're like, let's see what everyone does, and everyone flipped out. So maybe that means they'll make a change in their decision, and or they're doing something really stupid where they think Anthem is going to become the next IP that'll wipe out Mass Effect in importance. Now it looks beautiful, but will it be as like connected to people as Mass Effect is, with the people and the communications and the story and the characters? You know,
probably not.
Probably close, but Mass Effect is already built.
I was gonna say probably not.
No, I give BioWare credits to do that, because I mean, fuck, Dragon Age did it to me, Mass Effect did it to me. I believe Anthem can do the same thing, although they have a challenge of doing that in a massive multiplayer online world.
That's my thinking.
It's like, how engaging can characters be?
Yeah,
in that?
It's mostly gonna be us running around and you being like, "Stop going ahead with the shotgun," and I'm just fucking.
All right, everyone, take one step forward. We're about to jump in. And just
Cal's already down there. I'm down.
Or you're like, all right, guys, we're gonna get into this group. We're gonna jump down into this crew of whatever the fuck they were called, and then suddenly, like, another team just jumps right in the middle of them, and you're like, but I needed that last one to finish the quest. Oh, 10-minute respawn.
Space goblins.
Yeah, space goblins.
Spade goblins. Next up, Sony's Sean Layden has played Death Stranding, but quote couldn't explain to you what the game is. Alright. Death Stranding exists and someone's played it. Good news if you were worried, it might just be a collection of cool trailers and an IOU from Kojima as he travels the world approving merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
President of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Sean Layden, has played it though. So some working demo exists. Although even after going hands-on, Layden admits he couldn't explain to you what the game is. Speaking in an interview with The Telegraph, Layden confirms the game is up and running, apparently using Guerrilla Games' Decima engine. Really gave him a leg up and test it and have some prototype levels running. This doesn't mean it makes any sense, though, which is where Layden's post-playing admittance comes from. However, when asked if the game is as revolutionary as Kojima-san is promising, he replies after a pause, all that and more.
I think he's just generally confused. I mean, I'm thinking this is probably like a giant grayscale landscape, and then suddenly just fucking Mads Mikkelsen just charges out and punches you in the nads, and you're just like, oh.
Instead of a skybox, we've used Mads Mikkelsen's face. Yeah. It's just a stretched face across all of eternity.
And then where you go, the eyes follow you. I would prefer if he was just literally confused, like he just went in and it was like some sort of puzzle to even like turn on the console.
He's like, the game starts here. He's like, I'm paying you. I just press this button.
But it's all a trick. And he runs off into a hall of mirrors.
So, I mean, it's cool that there is something... They're working on something. There's something being made right now. There was that whole fucking talk about the spaghetti in the diner and all that shit. Yeah. So, yeah, who knows what this game's going to be. Just putting it out there, when do you think we're going to see, like, actual gameplay for this? Do you think by next year we'll see it, like E3?
Yeah. E3 next year. We'll find
and then it comes out, like, 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that, because they're taking a year off this year probably from showing it at all.
Yeah.
And then we might see something. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, maybe we might see something at PSX on it, maybe. Like something very basic of a first shot of gameplay, and then maybe we saw the God of War stuff.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You know, but that's the thing, like, God of War showed that, and it was 2 years until we finally got a release date or anything close to the game, so maybe seeing that at PSX and seeing it in 2019, that kind of makes sense. But I definitely think it's going to be fall of 2019.
Yeah, I can see that. That's what I'm guessing. Next story from Engadget. PS4 is like a 5-year-old PC, and it's really holding developers back. You want the honest truth? This machine is not so strong as you think. This is like a 5-year-old PC. If consoles were as powerful as PCs are today, you would see all different games. Most of the work developers put out there is to make them work on consoles.
So Cal made the best point about this whole thing, which is so dumb, is that the console comes out when it's new. It's like, yeah, that's like new. But if I buy a PC today, in 3 years, it's outdated.
Yeah, it's just a weird point to make. It's like, yeah, of course. Like,
yeah, like it's a 3-year-old PC.
Yeah, it's a stationary thing that doesn't improve unless they release something like the PS4 Pro or the
Yeah.
Xbox One X, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, you could say this guy could travel back in time and be saying this about the Super Nintendo. He's
Yeah.
like, this isn't good. This only does 16-bit graphics.
Yeah.
If we had a better thing, we could make better things. Bleh! Anyways, fucking stupid.
Fucking stupid.
But Sony, this is not in response to this, just a follow-up story. Sony says it will, quote, probably be some time before we see the PS5.
Which I think is appropriate.
Well, honestly, it's been weird because traditionally console cycles weren't super long. They were like 4 to 5 years, maybe 5-6 years, depending on what it was. Right, the PS1 era was it whatever.
It was longer than the others.
No, the longest one though was our last one, the PS3 360 generation.
Oh, you're right.
It was like 7-8 years long.
Yeah.
Like they launched Xbox 360 launched 2005, and it went on till like 2013, 2014. It was like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is this a new tradition of us having extended console cycles, or was that a fluke? And now with the PS4 and Xbox One, it's like it's going to be another 5-6 year, and then we go on to PS5.
I think it's going to be longer cycles, but I only think that because I think they are appreciating, and also the developers, paying attention to the developers, are appreciating getting more chance to utilize the technology. Like, this thing may be 3 years old, but the latest PCs, like someone comes along and goes, oh, my thing holds 4K Ultra and runs games at this ridiculous resolution. But the game isn't built to run at anything higher than what it's at. So it'll look a little crisper, it'll look a little nicer, but it's not utilizing 100% of what you've got in your thing. I mean, heck, computers right now, your OS 10 and, the Mac OS and Windows don't even use over a certain amount of RAM in your computer. Like, you could put 12 gigs of RAM in there, it'll never activate all 12, right? Because the OS program language only knows to work with 8 until an update comes and says, okay, now you can work with 10. So, like, the fact that happens, we never utilize the technology all the way, and, like, with the PS3, by the end of it, we're finally like, alright, the games aren't going to start looking better.
The thing is, like, I always remember, like, if you remember the beginning of the PS2 era, things didn't look great, obviously.
No.
They were, like, slightly smoother PS1 models.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the PS2 cycle, we had, like, shit like God of War 2, which looked beautiful. Great-looking game. It takes a long time for the developers to get, like, used to the hardware and, like, really pumping out
it takes 3 years for you to make a game. So by the time you're deving halfway through, you're finally making a game that's utilizing the engine 3 years in, and suddenly there's a new one, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So if you give it 6 years, you get 2 rounds of finished games, and the 6th year games are going to be the machine at its peak performance.
Think about Horizon Zero Dawn. Think about how good that game looks.
Yeah.
They did one game before that, Killzone Shadowfall, which launched with the PS4. So, like, that game looked pretty okay. It was, like, a really nice-looking PS3 game, kind of. And then now Horizon Zero Dawn is, like, we literally have an algorithm to make this look beautiful.
Every shot.
every time you turn around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, they're pumping up power. Like, and you know, the next game from these guys, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, probably, will look even better.
It'll look even better and even prettier. And that'll probably be the max a PS4 can do. And then, you know, you'll max out the Pro. And then, so, like, and that's the thing, we also have the Pro now. So, like,
I think it would be a shame, because you get a lot of good games at the end of a console life cycle
yeah.
when everyone's gotten used to the system, the
games.
hardware, like, everything, you know?
And that's why everyone cries when a new console comes out, right? We're like, oh, our games, and they're all looking
The launches
so
are
great.
usually shitty.
Yeah.
They usually have bad shit.
Yeah, so, like, let's stretch this out a little further, give us some more time, and let these games percolate, and let the devs have some time to make games where they're pushing the technology as far as possible.
Absolutely. I'm totally fine with the systems as they are right now. Until, like, something really inhibits the, you know, if Kojima's like, I can't do my crazy idea on the PS4 because it doesn't have enough power. And, like, then if it's inhibiting, like, literal creativity, then alright, maybe, but
the thing is, it's never really going to happen in that context. And even then, we have the Pro, and you have your Scorpio X1 X thing. So
he nailed it. You can tell he's a Microsoft fanboy.
Okay. I'm happy for Microsoft doing a good job. I just was at Microsoft Studios for OJAM and spoke with a Microsoft rep who was offered to give me things. But, like, it's a bad name.
What do you think of our E3 presentation, Mike? The Scorpio X double Thrix?
I did that literally too.
The Scorponok. maximize is great. I love it. I love all the boxes.
I basically literally did that. I did to him. His name's Mickey. He's a good guy. I was afterwards. I was going through it. And I was like, Xbox. It's such a terrible name. And he's like, I know. We all called it Scorpio, and we still do. So like the Microsoft rep was like, I hate it too.
That always stops. I remember when I was listening to podcasts at the time, when the name Wii got announced, the Nintendo Wii, people fucking melting down, crying, women fainting. I remember conversations on podcasts being like, "This fucking stupid name. It's fucking dumb. I think everyone's just gonna keep calling it the Revolution. That's what I'm gonna keep calling it." That was his code name, the Nintendo Revolution. Such a cool name. Everyone's just gonna call it the Revolution. That's what I'm gonna do. Like 2 months later, they were like, "The Nintendo Wii is releasing," and like, yeah, like no one cares. Anyways, next up. This isn't really a story. This is more something me and Mike just want to comment on. Notable Final Fantasy 15 announcements coming at Gamescom, which is soon. I believe that's next month sometime.
Yeah.
We held back a bit of information during E3. Square Enix marketing manager Akio Ufuji said, "We are preparing with high praise to do all sorts of things on a large scale this summer." That's right. We've been extremely busy. We have to be sure to have some good announcements in the summer. Stop doing Final Fantasy 15.
Yes.
It's over.
The part about Final Fantasy 15 is pissing me off, and we talked about how much we hated the multi-content explosion they did. That drove us all nuts. But now they're doing these episode things for each character, with Gladiolus and Ignis and Prompto, right? But in the game, they never did any side story stuff except for in those 3 anime episodes, which are only 20 minutes long, to do anything with any of those characters. This content is actually really good. The last 2 episodes of Prompto and...
Prompto in particular look really cool to me.
And Gladiolus is actually really good too. I've gone through the content, and it's great stuff, but it should have just been in the game in the first place. I'm really tired of, especially with Square Enix and Japanese games, and I mean, it seems like this trend is going away, but Square Enix is still clinging to it, is not front-ending your game. Like, this game, all of this content currently should have just been front-ended and packaged entirely into just Final Fantasy 15. Mm-hmm. And then you can start doing releases. Your original core content should be big enough. You and I beat 15 in like 45, 50 hours.
Yeah, roughly that.
Yeah. And had a great time. But, like, Final Fantasy should be 90 hours and, like, little intricacies. And these 2 stories, like 10 hours each, would have done it.
Yeah, would have been great to get a little more
and in the freaking Final Fantasy 15, Gladiolus takes off.
Oh yeah, well he basically was like, "I'll see you one paid DLC later," and then just left.
He just left, and then like we're all like, "What happened?" No one told us that, and then they're like, "It's going to come out in DLC," and we're like, "But you could have just told us like right there."
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Mm-hmm. Just start working on Final Fantasy 16, bitch. I want to see what you have.
Yeah.
I want to see what you have. Is what I'm saying to Hideaki Itsuno, who apologizes for his game not being at E3. He tweeted, "Sorry to not announce anything at E3. Please wait as my project is progressing smoothly."
Who's this?
This is the guy who directed Devil May Cry 4. And everyone is hoping that his new project is Devil May Cry 5. So, come on, man. Please. Please announce Devil May Cry 5 this year.
It's not Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes.
No, it's not.
I will be so excited.
Is he from the studio still?
Yeah, like there's full possibility that he could be working on it. That's the thing. Like, there's a possibility. He works at Capcom. Yeah. He's the guy who directed the Devil May Cry 4, so...
Yeah, but did he do any others? Just the one?
The other guy left. The other guy was Shinji Mikami.
Yeah. But didn't he do a bad game? 4 was bad?
No, 4 was good.
4 was good?
4 has a problem, which is you go through the game as Nero, and you're like, that was pretty good. And then all of a sudden they're like, you can play as Dante now. And you're like, oh, I get to play as Dante? And they're like, the exact same levels you played as Nero. And you're like, oh. Like, it's... Which is like... I go, okay. Yeah. They're different because I have different moves with Dante, but, like, I feel like you could have tried harder. Good game, but yeah, they make you play through the same thing twice, kind of.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, still.
Yeah, that one's a great one. 3 and 4 are great. 1 is pretty good. 2 is bad.
I understand. But, yeah, I'm still just going to laugh at you until it happens.
Yep. Until it happens. See, he said it, people. Until it happens, which it will.
Yeah, like 10 years from now. Because there's no dribble. There's just them talking about, like, titles, which could be anything.
But there are dribbles. Like, there's that man. Oh, God. There's that guy who keeps fucking with his fans and only talking in Devil May Cry quotes.
Yeah, that's not a dribble. That's just an insane fucking voice actor or
so, okay, double. If this game turns out to not be Devil May Cry 5 and it's whatever else, and we find out, actually no, if we find out whatever the guy is working on, the motion capture guy, and if he's just been fucking with all these fans the entire time, I'm gonna lose my mind. Wouldn't that be crazy?
You guys are so crazy with the whole thing, though. You guys are out there pointing at chemtrails in the air.
Why wouldn't he be? Why would he do that? Why would he do? He'd only do that for his own gain, though. You know, he'd be doing that because, like, oh, people thinking there are more people coming.
No, he's doing it for his own gain. He has no reason to be a big name actor. No reason to have any attention. The only thing he's done is Devil May Cry. We've looked over his resume. So the only way he's getting followers
I'm
is
working
by
on Burger Time HD, and everyone's just going to lose their mind.
Yes, of course, because all he's doing is trying to get the Devil May Cry fans he can hooked on something. He knows that this is a hook.
That would be a shitty thing to do.
Yes.
Also a shitty thing to do would be Marvel vs. Capcom producers saying, maybe you don't even remember X-Men. Interview at GameSpot, talking about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which has no X-Men characters. That's not for sure, but there was a leaked list of characters that had no X-Men characters. And with the trailer we saw with all the other roster that was released, it was exactly what was on that list. So there's a few people missing, but like X-Men probably aren't in it.
No, because Marvel doesn't want to sell anything with X-Men, right? They're trying to make the franchise as unprofitable as possible.
We talked Marvel very closely about their future roadmap and what's going to be happening. You're a modern Marvel fan, maybe they don't even remember some of the X-Men characters, but they know some of the Guardians characters or Black Panther. You know what I mean? Captain Marvel may seem like a strange pick, but she's fantastic. She fits the gameplay. She fits the story, and they're really going to be pushing her as a strong female lead all the way up to the movie. We're trying to take everything into account and choose the best characters.
And or Marvel paid to pay for you to blast out the movies that haven't released yet, like Black Panther and Miss Marvel.
Well, I mean, it's Marvel vs. Capcom. Marvel's in the name. They have control. It's not like...
Well, or whatever.
It's not like, it's not some shady deal,
matter.
But like...
They're just advertising out the characters for the movies they have coming out. They're just not admitting. They're like, you know what? If it's not in the MCU, they're not in there.
I don't think you can be like... People don't remember the X-Men when, like, the X-Men movies still big, still make a lot of money, have big name actors. Yeah. Also, a lot of X-Men were in those previous games. Sentinel, Wolverine, Cyclops.
Wolverine just had a movie.
Wolverine just had Logan just had one of the best superhero movies of all time.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to say. Is that just, like, caught in the moment of an interview and you're like, no one knows the X-Men? You're like, what?
I think it's literally probably like with a program response.
Because I feel like he like caught himself by being like, Captain Marvel might seem strange because like Captain Marvel much less known than any X-Men.
Oh, no one knows my Captain Marvel. Everyone's like, who the fuck is this? At least like with Wonder Woman, people knew who she was. No, it's a fucking stupid thing to say, and he got caught, and he knows that he's not supposed to try and advertise out the X-Men. Like, if he was like, oh, the X-Men are great, and we love them. No, you're supposed to be trying to make this franchise.
And, like, a lot of times in the fighting game community, like, the big characters, like, Magneto's huge in the competitive scene. Like, it's, it is going to be odd when these characters aren't in there anymore. So, yeah, real weird, real dumb thing to say. But Capcom does what Capcom does, not releasing Devil May Cry 5 and whatnot. We're going to be taking a break. Little break skis.
Brewskis.
So come back after the break, and we'll talk a little about Marvel's indie strategy and what games we'd like to see from them. Welcome back to the second segment of the Pens and Pixels podcast, wherein we talk about Marvel indie games. Yeah. But before we get into the meat of this segment, which is going to be Mike and I suggesting developer pairings with superheroes, I just want to go over a little bit of what they said about this whole thing. Because, like, as soon as you hear Marvel indies, like, I was like, what the fuck? Why? I didn't even think they would ever want to touch indies, just because...
Or I was like, could that even make a good game?
Yeah, right? It was just like, how was that even on their radar? Mm-hmm. So, the actual title of this was, Marvel wants to make a The Defenders game.
Which is neat.
So here's some highlights of the interview in particular. Marvel was very happy with the progress of their mobile live service games, but felt that their console games were not very good. As such, they hired Jay Ong, a gaming executive who used to work at Marvel and Blizzard, to work on fixing that while continuing to expand their mobile service. Marvel also noticed that a ton of their fans were being introduced to the Marvel Universe or having their primary interaction with the Marvel characters be through games. So they felt it was very important to get the division up to the standards of their film and TV business. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Arkham games were a huge influence on their strategy for how to make console games. While they didn't want to make games that were literally just Arkham Asylum, they felt that the Arkham titles showed that you could design a game directly around what makes a superhero interesting, and end up with a great product even if it didn't exactly match what was already out there on the market.
Wow, they actually observed.
Yeah.
That's entirely correct.
See, and that's, again, I remember when I was complaining about the Spider-Man demo, when we found out that it just had, like, Arkham-like combat. Yeah. When Arkham came out, it was pushing the envelope so much, it was a different type of game. But and that's just kind of what I wanted from Spider-Man.
I'm totally with you.
A little unrealistic expectation to be like, they need to push the envelope. But that's what I was
Why didn't they invite Spider Combat?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like,
But to be fair, too, though, Batman, I have to admit, the punching and kicking mechanic in it was still the best feeling smash 'em up game I've ever played, personally. The reason why Batman worked is they built all the mechanics around Batman. You know, like night vision and detective goggles and tools and gear and shit, right? Yep. So, I mean, maybe that's what they took.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I guess Spider-Man is all just about his webbing at that point and how he can punch good.
Basically traversal, yeah. And punching pretty good. They contrast this with, quote, brand slaps, where you just make a game and shove an IP on it, even if it doesn't really fit the characters thematically, which is something they try to avoid now. Currently, their games exist in a standalone universe because they want to make sure each developer has lots of freedom to do whatever they want, but they're interested in setting up a shared universe of Marvel games someday, assuming it works out for the developers. Marvel has a large spreadsheet in their office listing out various characters and genres they would like to be in, how they best fit together, and who they think would be the best developers to work for them. Like, we need that job. That is such a fucking cool job.
I was going to say, just before this podcast, we were making this list for this thing, and we were just like, wow, we got really good fucking ideas. I hope someone listens. So if you're listening...
These are some cool ideas.
We want that job.
Then they go around to these developers and start pitching products. Can you imagine being approached by fucking Marvel if you were like some fucking indie or something?
Oh god, yeah.
They are also more than happy to take pitches from developers. They say the most important thing about if they go forward with a game is if the developer actually seems passionate about the characters in the product, since they're just doing it because, well, this would probably make money. They feel that results in bad games. This is all, they're saying all the right thing.
And this is literally also just our resume. Like, with this little segment here is our resume for this job. We are passionate about the characters. We care about the product.
It's true. We even like Moon Knight.
Yeah.
They mention a variety of unannounced console, mobile, and VR games coming up. Marvel is very interested in getting indies working on Marvel games, but currently their division isn't large enough to handle that. After they get their tentpole business set up, however, they intend to go after that aggressively. Marvel says they feel a lot of innovation in the industry comes from indies, and they definitely want to tap into that. They give the example of how they feel Scotty Young's artwork would be great for an indie game.
Oh my god.
How fucking cool would that be?
Scotty Young's like my...
If you don't know, Scotty Young is a dope-ass artist. You've probably seen his Marvel Babies covers, in particular.
He does Marvel Babies artwork all the time. He does a comic book currently called I Hate Fairyland, which is... he's got the style of, like, Herman meets, like, anime.
That's a good... Herman. Fuck. I love Herman. They mentioned that they definitely want to ensure that there are games for Spider-Man, the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the Defenders. They literally list these four. But that presumably later they're interested in propping up games around less known characters. They mention how Ant-Man became a great film success despite being total unknown beforehand, and hope to do the same with games at some point. There's a variety of other stuff about the various characters and ideas in the interview.
That's
and then
cool.
They say something with the Defenders. The same things goes with the Avengers. What makes the Avengers story unique and different from a Spider-Man story or even a Defender story? In a sense, we've learned a lot from all kinds of great storytelling and gaming. There are characters like Spider-Man, Avengers, Guardians, and Defenders, which are all properties that have a natural awareness and fan affinity. We absolutely want to make sure that we deliver on those, but I think we are also interested in plucking some of those characters from obscurity that you may not have heard of and making a game around them.
I think it's even better this way, too, right? Because, like, with Spider-Man, Avengers, Guardians, Defenders, blah, 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 we have content on the screen. And every time, last week or the week before, I was complaining about, games to movies to games to movies, etc. Yeah. Like, you were always like, where does this fit into the continuity? Is it based off the powers and the set and everything we've seen inside of the movies? Is it the movie Spider-Man or is it the comic book Spider-Man, right? And the great Spider-Man games were one of them was a movie one, but the rest of them were the comic book ones.
Yeah.
And they were the great Spider-Man games. With taking characters that don't have any screen time yet and putting them up, you do have more opportunity in your game.
Freedom.
Because, like, you're not restrained to being like, all right, so in this universe he's only ever fought, like, I don't know, fucking the Vulture. In this, I can take any Marvel villain that the Spider-Man's ever, like, just, like, kind of crossed even on the street, and just make him into a villain. And that could be anybody. So that's the amazing part of it. So I'm really hopeful.
You're right. Like it's almost like how Guardians of the Galaxy approached the movie, right? Like, they could almost do anything because most people had no fucking idea who Guardians of the Galaxy were. Yeah. They just saw it's a Marvel movie and here's some heroes, presumably, and there you go.
That's the excitement of a new IP for MCU is always like, hey, what are they going to do with this character, right? in gaming, since you've got so much more control, you control every aspect of this world down to like where the people walk. You can do so many interesting things.
It's interesting they're pushing the Defenders so much. I didn't expect them. Like, I know they're coming out with a Netflix series and stuff. I'm just surprised that the Defenders are on the level of Guardians and Avengers for them.
I mean, Iron Fist damaged the franchise of the Defenders and the whole build-up to it, for sure.
If Marvel was BioWare, Defenders would have been canceled.
Yeah, prematurely. But I mean, think about it. Like, before Iron Fist basically deflated the whole Netflix Marvel universe, you know, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Punisher, and even Luke Cage, while lukewarm, God, still kept the hype train rolling, right? So the Defenders is still running off of that, and I'm super excited to see everyone but Iron Fist.
Sure, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I just, in my head, for some reason, they just aren't on the same level as the other ones. Just in brand awareness, you know what I mean? They seem to be treating like Defenders are as big as Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, I don't think so. But like lots of people watch Netflix.
The answer is very clear. You know why?
Why?
Because Sigourney Weaver is in Defenders.
Ah, yeah. That's what they're going to be pushing.
Yeah.
We have a 3D model of Sigourney Weaver in our game.
They just got to Defenders and just Sigourney Weaver comes out. Hi, I'm Sigourney Weaver. Here's your game.
It's a VR experience where you just look at Sigourney Weaver.
I'd buy it.
The twist is, like, you look in a mirror and you are Sigourney Weaver. You're like, oh!
This is the greatest day ever.
So Marvel doing a lot of cool things with games. They're saying all the right things. This sounds exactly like what you'd want to hear.
Yeah, this is like the right choice. But
people who are passionate about like the characters, like they're not just handing it off because these people think they want to make money, which I'm sure there's in a lot of cases people are just thinking that.
I think Marvel has been influenced by Disney because Disney's been doing nothing but making the right choices every step of the way, and their business partnership has definitely influenced Marvel and its comic books and everything into making the right decisions. Recently, the right characters are coming back, the right story arcs are starting to change in the right direction. There's still mistakes, I'll admit, but
sure. It's
better than it has been at least 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's all just really reassuring stuff.
Yeah.
So Mike and I have concocted a small list of indie developers and superheroes we'd like to see them paired with.
Number one.
Is
a text message.
No, okay, so the first one was, Mike, do you recall the game Perception?
Remind me?
So it was a game where you were a blind woman in a haunted house.
Right.
And you were tapping around.
This is more current.
Yeah, it's a very recent game called Perception. Go look it up if you haven't. They have a really unique mechanic, but it's echolocation basically. Yeah. Like you're tapping your walking stick around to see the house as you're going. You got to keep tapping like a blind person would to get around.
Yeah, I remember we tied this together with Daredevil because when we saw the world on fire through Daredevil's eyes in the show, when we saw this, we were like, I mean, it's not the same, but it was similar. It
was similar, and you could do
like
something
black and the glowing light.
But I think we talked about it offline before, where we were talking about how that'd be so cool, but like you would never want to play a full game like that, like a 30-hour experience. Mm-hmm. Now with an indie, if you shrunk that experience down and you made some sort of fast-paced action game where to see the combat you need to be attacking, and it's just a non-stop, and you kind of compare it to like Superhot or something.
Where like Superhot's just literally about you throwing guns in the air, grabbing them out of the air, shooting stuff, and like flinging bullets out of the way. Yeah. Right? Like that is the game. I don't even know if there is a story behind Superhot except for like these guys are red and it's super hot. Mm-hmm. Like yeah. I don't know. That's literally all I know about that game. But in that same context, if we did the same thing where, you know, you were playing these like battle arena levels that are like maybe GoldenEye size kind of things, right? And you're running through that and you're smacking walls and making echolocations and running through, and it's got maybe a little bit of stealth.
Even stuff, where you're trying to stealth, you can drag your hand across the wall, and it makes a light, like so you can see the immediate wall, and you might know there's like, okay, there's a hall turning ahead of me, but I'm not sure what's behind there. Yeah. Whereas if you did a huge pound, you get a sense of like, there's a guy behind there, but I just made him aware.
Yeah, just pounded on the wall.
Yeah, I just pounded on the wall like a jackass or something, you know?
Or even weird moments where you're just doing that, and then suddenly you pound on the wall, and the guy's right in front of you, and turns around. What are you doing? I'm blind.
Yeah. Oh, how'd the blind guy get in this facility?
We should help him out.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of cool potential stuff you could do in that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That could not be done with a AAA 30-hour experience, you know? Mm-hmm. You can tell like a small Daredevil story. Yeah. Now, I'm not
even
sure...
like almost like a really interesting quick timed event kind of thing would be like in a certain room at this point, someone would drop something really loud as an event thing. And that would create a big sound wave. And in that moment, the room lights up enough for you to pick out the points where you can like bounce your baton around the room.
Yeah. You have to identify where it is.
Where they are and like click on them only in those moments where they queue up correctly. So that way it's like quick time, but it's up to you.
Mm. Yeah, and I just think the idea of like you need to keep pace with action, like, constantly. If you're in a fight, like, as soon as you block or something, like, they're hitting you, and you would get another sense of room. Okay, I have one enemy here, enemy there. Like, it'd be really interesting. I don't know if the Perception developer, they obviously aren't doing combat. They did a first-person horror game where you're not doing anything. But it'd be cool. They're the first person I think of when I think of something like that. I think it'd be a really unique twist on Daredevil's powers.
Yeah, we'd have to merge it in with, like, a developer, maybe, like, partnering with another developer in really good first-person combat mechanic stuff, which is very
It's
rare.
Hard to do. There's so many... Fuck it. You know who's good at it? Starbreeze. I don't know if they're still around. But they did the first-person Riddick games.
Yeah. Mirror's Edge guys. I mean, I know the team that did Mirror's Edge, which is that weird little team where everyone's like, we're still making a game at EA. But
we're getting away from indies now with Starbreeze and
Dice, no, but I mean, like, merging those two kind of concepts together.
Yeah.
Because, like, there was a really good first-person mechanic in Mirror's Edge. Like, let's take that team and, like, put them with these guys and put them in a room and figure out
maybe they can learn from them. Yeah, really cool. So Perception developer with Daredevil was the first one.
Yeah. And I just talking about that game, I get excited about the idea.
Sorry, the next one just makes me laugh because, like, it was such a out there one, but I think you nailed it. So the Journey developer for Silver Surfer.
Oh.
I think that's really cool. So again, if you don't know, Journey is a game where Journey, the developer, also made Flower, which was a game where you were like a fucking flower petal, like
coasting
on wind, basically, and you control it with at the time the motion controls of the 6-axis.
And Flow, which was just you basically using a control stick to constantly move this little amoeba thing around to eat and make it bigger. And then Journey, which was more of a game. It had their games. I forget the name of the studio.
I think they're like That Game Developer.
I think they are like That Game Studio or something like that. But all of their games are based on the flow theory, which is like, you know, that playing a game should just constantly, literally, as the word says, flow through. Not the band. Sorry, that's funny. But like that flow theory was it flows through and it just constantly lets the game kind of play itself, right? And that's the thing. If I were to, it's That Game Company. If I were to take an idea for Silver Surfer and make it into a smaller, indier, simpler game, it'd be based on this really smooth, constant flowing from planet to planet.
Yeah, through these galaxies, right?
Yeah.
Like really cool.
Ride the solar winds and ride the EM spectrum and stuff.
And have that just be kind of like an experience. And there's not really necessarily maybe some obstacles you avoid and stuff, but like not
minor
really...
mechanics. Like in Journey, there's no interaction mechanics except for the little signal thing you sent out and collecting enough stuff to make your scarf longer, right? That Game Company could come up with something along the same lines that would be that ingenious. And maybe the whole goal of the game is that you're constantly trying to properly navigate using the flow to get Galactus further away from civilized planets, right? And it's very simple, very small, very quick, but it would play out a lot of fun. And hell, a really fun surfing space mechanic would be good enough for me.
Yeah, I think that alone would be cool. I was also thinking if they added some sort of conversation system in there like BioWare does in Mass Effect where you do the surfing segment, you land on the planet, and then you meet the ambassador or the planet or whatever, and then like you have a small conversation, and you're like, yeah, Galactus is going to eat you, or like, or no, he's not, and then it really has no effect on anything aside from you fed Galactus or you didn't, and then you like just surf to another planet just to break up the
some sort of interaction and something else, because like just constantly being in space would just make it a bit of a too small of a game.
Yeah,
there would be neat if there was some sort of planetary interaction. But I mean, after seeing what they did with Journey, I think they could come up with an interesting way to flow that whole world together.
Yeah, like drifting down the sand dunes and stuff. Yeah, like that's a really out there, like esoteric idea, but I like it a lot. I
mean, really, a really good Silver Surfer company, if they weren't a bad company, would be I forget their name, but the No Man's Sky guys.
Hello Games.
Because I have to say, the only thing I enjoyed the most about that game, and I probably did it like 200 times, was taking off from a planet, going up into space, and landing on a planet. That literal, like, no load just felt like I literally just pulled up to a planet sensation. If I could use that mechanic, mix it with the guys from That Game Company to make a really nice game of flow where you're landing and exploring planet to planet, and maybe the whole thing is just you scoping out and surveying planets for Galactus, like... that alone with those two mechanics together, you could totally make something flow together.
That'd be really cool. Yeah, that could be really neat. No Man's Sky should have been a Silver Surfer game. Next up by Frictional Games, the guys behind Amnesia, the first-person horror games. Seeing a theme here, I guess. We thought of Moon Knight, perhaps.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Our other pick was Firewatch, but I think the Amnesia developers fit it more if it's Moon Knight.
Yeah.
For the psychosis and the...
I mean, like, gameplay-wise and, like, quality-wise, I would definitely lean towards the Firewatch team.
Yeah, the Amnesia games are quality. They're just...
I mean, I just thought the whole King's Quest kind of, like, mechanics thing to Amnesia, where it's, like, the hand and you're picking up stuff like that, point-and-click computer game, like, King's Quest mechanic, no.
Sure.
Out. I want like a first-person experience like I had with Firewatch, where I literally felt like I was in this dude's body. Like I saw his hands, I saw him trip, I saw so many aspects of him falling off the cliff and just getting a little shot more. Like it was so well shot with so many great scenes. I got a sense of the humanity. But the game idea for this one was doing Moon Knight, but like as if he's insane. If anyone doesn't know about Moon Knight, he's very, very insane. Potentially murderously insane.
Yep.
And he likes to punch things.
Yep.
So maybe
he's like if Batman was actually more crazy.
Yeah, like a full crazy. So like he lives as like a homeless person a lot of the time in some of the comics.
He's had so many different story arcs. It's hard to say which one you pick. That's the thing.
But I would go homeless, put him in like New York alleys, and make it like this maze of New York alleys that you're lost in, and you're constantly flashing between like insanity and reality, and you're trying to like figure out like what's going on, trying to like decipher your insanity. Maybe you have some plot where you killed someone and you're trying to like work your way through the alleys and try and find your sanity again. Of did you kill them or did you not? Or
and I think you mentioned something about the constantly the world manipulating itself and stuff, and I immediately thought of the. Did you ever play the Devil May Cry game? The one with the reboot.
What?
The Devil May Cry game?
Just Devil May Cry.
Yeah, DMC.
I didn't play it. I've seen it though.
Oh, okay. So that game just had a lot of the environment, like it had really cool shit. Like the bricks from walls would come out and like kind of crisscross and like come out with like some like black string and stuff, and they would stop and create a barrier and be like something like that would be very cool. Where it's organic, like
I would think a mix of that, like kind of Silent Hill-y in that sense, where like things were kind of like mixing together, but then also spice in the Scarecrow sequence from Batman Arkham Asylum, where like you turn the camera around and suddenly there's a wall.
Yes,
and you're just like whoa, and
really unsure.
And then you turn the camera back and the whole room is gone, and suddenly it's all just one room. Like that was amazing.
Would there be combat in this game, or do you think it would mostly be like a first-person experience story?
There would have to be combat in this game, but I would have it like he's so mucked up because like at this point his insanity has gone like crazy. Maybe there is some sort of like reduce your psychosis mechanic, either a pill or whatever it might be. We'd be more clever with it. But
these are all things we came up with in 20 minutes. Obviously, they're not going to be like
the most clever thing in the universe. But I would have it like he's struggling, so you can't like. I mean, the Moon Knight in the comic book could take out 20 guys, right? But in this one, I'd have it like he's crawling around and trying to keep himself stable, and but there has to be some combat mechanic. Because it's Moon Knight, like you got to punch something. Yeah. So maybe something a little bit with Dishonored.
I think if they went really ballsy, they could just do a story with it. I don't know if Marvel would actually do that. But
no, but they'd probably toss in some Dishonored first-person combat kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can see that.
Without guns, the stealthy melee kill stuff.
Next one was, this is really easy. We don't have to actually talk about this one enough. It was the first one I thought of when I first thought of this topic was Scott Pilgrim versus the World developers for an X-Men beat 'em up.
Which I think is genius.
Just harken back to...
That one can just be done. Like, just checkmark that one off.
Just be like, remember that arcade game you fucking loved? Here's a better version of it. And the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is one of the best beat-em-up games ever made, probably. It's the classic ones are good, like the Turtles in Time and stuff, but like they were so low on mechanics. The Scott Pilgrim vs. the World actually had like some RPG elements to it and stuff, and like that would be really cool in an X-Men arcade game.
I would pump it up further than Scott Pilgrim and like actually give you like powers and stuff, like more than I don't want 3 powers for 20 levels or whatever. Like maybe even be giving me the option to unlock more and select them. I only have 3 slots, but at least
that's what I was gonna say. 3 slots, but you could pick and choose.
Pick and choose, right? Like, I mean, simplify it down. But yeah, I mean, fuck, just take Scott Pilgrim, skin it with fucking X-Men, and you still got a game.
Oh, fuck, yeah, like, just a good-ass, like, a fun, like, we could play in an afternoon type thing, like, X-Men arcade game. Just harken back to the old days. I think you get a lot of nostalgia play on that one.
Yeah, for sure, and it definitely hits back to one of the best X-Men games ever made.
The next one was Kitty Pryde. So specifically a Kitty Pryde game. I guess it would be X-Men Kitty Pryde or something.
Yeah, or Shadowcat.
By the Rime developers. Rime, if you don't know, is a kind of an eco-looking game from the Shadow Colossus developers. But Rime is by a different developer. Sorry, it's just like Eco. Sorry. Yeah. So what was the idea for this one? I forget now immediately. My idea with Kitty Pryde was like, you can do a first-person story where you clip through the world because Kitty Pryde's power is to just like
phase through all material.
Yeah, phase through things.
Yeah. But what I thought it was actually, now that I'm thinking about it again, is maybe the Rhyme guys will work as well as doing what was that game called where you were a dude who had a pillow and horns, and it was made by the Persona guys. Fuck, what was it called?
Oh, Catherine.
Catherine. Like a puzzle game.
Oh,
right?
okay, sure, okay.
Because like what this was going to be like, so Kitty Pryde can't phase through, she can phase through most things, but she has difficulty phasing through some materials. So let's push that mechanic and say she can't pass through everything.
Yeah,
right.
You would have to.
Yeah.
There'd need to be boundaries.
But let's make this a 3-dimensional maze puzzler kind of thing, like Catherine was with like those crazy stuff. But like instead, in all these corridors, you're like, all right, I'll phase through the floor here and get down to this level, but I can't get back up. Those all go through this wall. Right, and it's all about you like
isometric perspective,
yeah.
like almost like invisible ink,
yeah.
kind of like.
And you're going to be phasing through floors, phasing through walls, finding different directions, and trying to navigate this 3-dimensional maze. And it could be like really a lab, right? Like escaping from a mutant lab, or the Moira's lab's been contaminated, or whatever the fuck it might be.
So this would be like a puzzle stealth game, basically.
Yeah, and you're going to be like sliding through the walls and trying to find the X-Men and stuff. And there could even be great story RPG elements where you find the X-Men in one of the rooms.
Fuck, man, I don't know. We were just talking about that game, Mark of the Ninja.
Yeah.
We really loved. That was a great stealth game.
Yeah.
Wonder if they could do it.
Yeah, totally. Actually, you could totally do a 2D side-scrolling version of it.
If you've never played Mark of the Ninja, it's a fucking fantastic game.
Unfortunately, you have to go back and get your fucking Xbox 360
I don't even know
out.
if it's backwards compatible. That's the thing.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like I would have heard about it if it was.
It might be on Steam or something like that.
Yeah, go check it out if you can. It's called Mark of the Ninja. It's by the guys who did Don't Starve, oddly enough. Like, Don't Starve is their biggest new hit. Oh, no, wait, they did Invisible Ink, too. Yeah. So they have experience doing that kind of perspective and shit. Yeah, that's... Okay, we're changing it. Fuck Rhyme. Yeah. Those developers.
Oh
my god, yeah.
Like, those are the guys who would just do it and just literally give them like phase powers and have them work with 3-dimensional maps and, you know, moving through them in a bunch of different directions. Because it'd be cool to think about a puzzle game where, like, going in a maze is usually like a line, like you draw on a paper and try to solve it. But instead, now you have to think about up and down, like X, Y, and the Z.
You're thinking about every axis, right? That is a super cool game, man. I want that made now. That's sad. That's not a real thing. Fuck yeah, Clay Entertainment. Clay, is that how you say that?
Clay.
Klei. Clay Entertainment.
Clay.
Fuck, they're in Vancouver, British Columbia. We should just go there. Just tell them to do it.
Yeah.
Fuck, they're good. They're good developers.
They're really
Jesus
good.
Christ.
They make nothing but really great games.
Yeah, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Torchlight's awesome. I love Torchlight, and even the second one.
And plus, people even love that shit.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oxygen not included. Yeah, God, they make so many good games.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Definitely Clay Entertainment for the Shadowcat game.
This is also all patent pending. Clay, if you're going to make this, you have to tell us first.
You have to credit Popcast.
Yeah.
Okay. My other idea.
Yes.
Yeah. Marvel's like, who we're putting on the payroll now? No. Next up was a You Don't Know Jack game, but it would be You Don't Know MODOK. You Don't Know You Don't Know Jack is a party quiz game that you play with. I mean, you can play alone, but if you do, you're a loser.
So I had no clue what this game was, just a note.
Yeah, it's just a party quiz game, and it would just be like MODOK themed in my mind.
I think you could just make MODOK into a freaking mascot for Marvel from now on, and tie him into everything that way.
I would like that.
Yes.
Do you remember in Marvel Ultimate Alliance when MODOK was a boss fight, and you could only get closer to him if you answered the questions correctly?
No.
That was his boss fight.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He was basically just asking, like, Marvel trivia. Also, in Spider-Man...
Why was that a thing? MODOK was like a machine designed to kill.
Yeah, but he's super smart as well.
Yeah, but like he could just shoot you with his mind beam.
He could, but he wanted to ask you questions. Also, in the game Spider-Man: Web of Shadows, a great game, my favorite Spider-Man game of all time. You do a Wolverine fight, and you fight Wolverine as Spider-Man, and intermittingly, because you have the black suit on, you can switch between black suit symbiote or the regular suit, and Wolverine's like, "Can I trust you, Parker?" So it, like, in the middle of the fight, so you beat him up for a bit, you punch for a bit, and then he just, like, latches onto the wall with his claws, and he, like, quizzes you. He's like, your aunt's name is Mary, and you're like, and you have a wheel, and you got to pick, like, no, it's Aunt May, or yes, it's that, or whatever. You can just fuck with them, and, like, he does that 4 times throughout the fight, and I was like, this is fucking dumb.
Does it even influence anything?
Not really. No, I'm pretty sure you could answer them all wrong, and he's like, "Why'd you fuck with me, Parker?" Like, I don't know. Like, I just remember that being so like, why is he doing this? But I remembered it, so maybe it was good.
He just lashes onto a wall periodically.
Yeah, just like 4 times in the middle of a fight after you get him. After you hit him enough, he just starts quizzing you.
I suppose he's trying to prove you're still you. Is that the whole thing?
Yeah, you're trying to prove that. Yeah, you're still Peter Parker, and the symbiote hasn't overtaken you.
Yeah. But doesn't have access to his memories anyways?
Oh, I mean, oh yeah, the symbiote does, totally. Yeah, it would be alive if it isn't completely in control.
Mm-hmm. So there's no asking questions.
Yeah, Wolverine's dumb. Like, I don't know. I don't know why he did it. It's been a while since I played the game. It just always stuck out with me. I'm like, that's a dumb boss fight.
It's a dumb boss fight.
Next up was the Ori and the Blind Forest developers on a Doctor Strange game.
Yeah, this is cool. This was your idea.
So, as you all know, Ori and the Blind Forest, fucking beautiful, immaculate game.
And gotten more beautiful.
Yeah, the Ori and the Will-O-Wisps or whatever, Will of the Wisps, the sequel looks even better.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange has multiverse jumping ability. Yeah. So, in our minds, we were thinking like a game where every level's a different universe he's going through.
Yeah.
And painted by those guys, that would look so fucking good.
Like, they would capture, like, all of that visual fuckery that is the multiverse. And then...
and even the Ori devs really nailed, like, the fluid motion that Ori controls
like, everything flows through the game, even visually, just on level design.
It controls really well and really tight, and I feel like even with Doctor Strange, even if he's just, like, flying through a level and stuff, you could really make it, like, smooth and flowy.
Yeah, but you can make a really cool, like, visual mechanic behind that where, like, as Doctor Strange moves and he's constantly, like, kind of going between levitating and running and stuff, like, his cloak really flows and you get that, because as Ori runs, the tail and the motion of the character is very animation, like, perfection. Like, they really know how to make something move. Do the same thing with him where it's all based on, like, his cape, and his cape's really going to be hiding a lot of them, but it's constantly flowing behind him and he's working through this. I would like that the levels would also be more interactive. I mean, Ori stuff is not non-interactive, the environments definitely are. But, like, you know, like, if you're running through and suddenly you're running through a place that's full of eyeballs and stuff, like, they would all, like, scatter away from you and shrink, like, those things in the ocean or some shit. Like, lots of really cool, crazy, weird stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna get, like, Kubrick on this shit. Like,
yeah, exactly, yes. Yeah, like MC Escher shit. Like, just fucking, nonsense. Yeah.
And it would just be the exploration kind of thing. I mean,
that's why I want it to be very exploration heavy. Yeah. And give us a reason. Maybe we're looking for, I don't know, the fucking Horgy Hosts of Hogarth or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Yeah. You're looking for something.
Yeah. I mean, you can set up a story and a goal for it. I would still give him magical mechanics in the same way that Ori has magical mechanics, right? So different abilities, even some defensive abilities, even some enemies and things that hurt you.
Yeah, I'm sure they could nail, like, a good combat system in there, too.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have, like, you know, him sitting back and just being like, Dagger to knock, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Dagger to knock, Dagger to knock. I wanna go. Yeah, I think they could really do something cool with that. I mean, this new Ori game is probably going to take them, like, 9 years to complete, but... Fuck, it would look so good.
It would look so good.
It would look so good.
Yeah, it was definitely the people who would make this fun.
Next up was another one of my ideas, an Iron Man game. No developer in particular, but a Gradius style game.
Yeah.
Like a top-down arcade like shooter. Yeah, like when you were a jet and you got those ridiculous power-ups, just like going left and right on the screen, and you just fucking... It was a bullet hell, I guess you call them, those games.
Yeah.
That would just be fun. It was an Iron Man... fucking shoot 'em up.
Like, yeah, that's a matter of fact, we're against most iOS games these days, but that would make a good iOS game.
Actually, yeah, it would. Yeah, because the screen, that'd be perfect.
Yeah,
you just control. Yeah,
you just flying around, and it'd be perfect. And that would be like a fucking 4-month dev.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done that already. It seems so like
obvious.
Yeah,
maybe it has.
Did we just steal a game? Maybe we did.
Maybe we did. I mean, maybe not exactly Iron Man, but you know.
And the last one. This was your idea. Namor, by the Abzu developer, who is actually some people who defected from that game company.
Yeah,
they are ex-Journey developers.
Yeah, which I mean, I don't really need to explain this one. Abzu is pretty much Namor.
You're underwater.
It's the best swimming mechanic ever. Just stick him underwater, and you know, there you go. I mean, just slap a Namor story on it. Give it. Would I even give it? Combat mechanics? I mean, all Marvel games have combat, but it's not a necessity.
I don't think you necessarily need it. That's the thing. That's why I asked in Moon Knight. Even though Moon Knight does punch.
No, Moon Knight, I think, just for like the whole horror aspect, if you made like taking out one person an extreme event.
Yeah, okay, like, for sure.
Like that's why it becomes interesting because it builds up on that tension. For like a Namor game done by Abzu, no. I mean, maybe we'd have like giant like sea monsters and shit like that you have to catch on to and like take out fucking Shadow of the Colossus style. Like that kind of shit would be kind of cool. So, yeah, no, that's how I totally do. I'd be like, he's trying to, like, you know, fucking save Atlantis or whatever the fuck it is, and he's gonna go
My Aquatic Kingdom, yeah. There are 7 beasts.
Yeah, and he has to go out into the oceans, and you've got to take him out kind of Shadow of the Colossus style, but with, like, the Abzu mechanics and look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, another game I really want to play right now. I want to play all of these. Why don't these exist?
Yeah, so we tried to think outside of the box on a lot of these. We didn't just go straight up. I mean, aside from the fucking X-Men one, which is just a beat 'em up nostalgia play.
No, but that's a genius into connection. Like, I didn't even think of that until you said it. So, I mean, it's so obvious, but it's also not obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for them to do an old school arcade game, like the just harken back. I feel like people would be all over that.
Yeah, for sure.
Any last thoughts or pulling anything out?
No, the thing is I'm right now just kind of thinking about all the games that don't exist that we just made up. But I think there's a lot of potential behind all of this, and it's just going to be really cool. Obviously they're waiting for Spider-Man to earn all its money, and then they're going to put the money into the game studio. But both of them, Spider-Man movie and the game.
Yeah.
But like after this happens and these games start coming out and the options start happening, I really hope they do explore this place, because we've never really, other than Spider-Man and Batman ever had a really truly good superhero game of any other character. They've always been either side scrollers or bad to beat 'em ups, or strategy games, which is not what we want. We want to get an experience of the core mechanic of the character, and that's why Batman Arkham Asylum was great.
Yep.
It was based around him being a detective, gliding around on his cape and punching things. Like, that was all that Batman's about. Perfect, make that game move with it, and also, of course, awesome villains. But like with the Namor one, if I want to play Namor, I want to be swimming and it to be fucking cool when I swim, and that should feel better than everything else in that game.
Yeah, and that's why I think some of these characters lend themselves to indie games so much more, because no one's gonna fund a AAA you swim as Namor game, like no one fucking cares.
Yeah.
But if it's a fucking $15 indie game experience, like that could be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just think some of these characters lend themselves so much better.
Or Catherine Stott, not Catherine Stott, whatever the fuck it was. That's the other studio we were looking at. Or is it Klein? No, it was the other one before this.
Kitty Pryde was Klein, like Invisible Ink, or
Oh yeah, sorry, it was these guys. Like, get Klein to work on an X, Y, and Z axis 3-dimensional puzzler.
Stealth puzzle game,
Stealth puzzle phasing through walls game, right? Like, that pitch would never work with her. They'd be like, okay, well, we're going to get the rest of the team in. It's going to be an isometric RPG, but she can do that. And you're like, no, but... I'm excited to see if this goes through.
Save the AAA for, like, the big boys who make more sense.
So, it also, in a closing for this, so... You're like, oh, we'll take all of our Marvel characters, and I know that Marvel's doing this, and this is why Marvel's smarter, and we'll put them into indie things, because they can't really sustain themselves on their own. By the way, Sony, Mysterio can't sustain anything. So don't make a whole film for him, just put him in a Spider-Man movie.
There's no better way to go than that. If you enjoyed this week's podcast, you can find me on Twitter at TheCalG. Mike is at Mike Kent Draws, and Pens and Pixels is across all social medias. Pick your poison.
Yep, so make sure to give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and anything else that we're on. We're on a lot of things.
I agree.
Yeah. Be sure to give us a comment. Some of you guys have been commenting more lately. It's been great to hear from you. We always respond back as soon as possible. We'd like to hear your ideas in the notes.
Write
us
some emails if you want. Do you want a listener segment? You want to harass us about some stuff? We'll answer emails.
Sure. Yeah, so give us some email questions, and we'll answer back, and we'll give it to our perspective, if you care.
If you listen this far, I assume you do.
I assume at this point you're like, hey, I like these guys' opinions. I agree with them, and or disagree. But yeah, so be sure to do all that kind of stuff. We do like interacting with you guys. And other than that...
Excelsior!
You choked on your vape while you said that.
Excelsior! No, that was my Stan Lee voice. Excelsior!
Is that what he sounds like?
Not really.
Oh.
I'm not great at it. Excelsior! Excelsior! This is what he says, right?
Does he sound like he's had a stroke?
I mean, a little. You've heard him. He's in the Marvel movies.
He is. Yeah.
Excelsior!